Hi, my name's Eric, and I'll be reading you selections from the e-edition of today's Cape Cod Times, dated Monday, May 5th of 2025. A happy Cinco de Mayo to all of our listeners. And we'll start with the weather today. Today, across the Cape and Islands, occasional rain and drizzle pretty much throughout the day. High of 59, a low of 53 in the overnight with a couple of showers expected. Tomorrow, Tuesday, occasional rain and drizzle. High of 60, low of 56, pretty much identical to today. On Wednesday, low clouds, followed by some sun. We'll have a little bit of a break. It'll warm up a little bit too. 64 the expected high, 51 the expected low. On Thursday, mainly cloudy with a shower or two, high of 66, a low of 47 in the overnight. On Friday, a morning shower, then breezy and cooler. High of 53, low of 46. So the gardens are enjoying this, I'm sure. Showers and rain throughout the week. But for us, it is kind of a miserable, icky weather to go out in. But it is Cinco de Mayo, so make yourself a margarita at some point in the day, and maybe your day will brighten up, even if the sun isn't out there. Heading to the front of the paper. The sun will rise at 5:33 a.m. today. It'll set at 7:44 p.m. We'll have 14 hours and 11 minutes of daylight. The moon will rise at 1:02 p.m. and set at 2:34 a.m. Heading to the front of the paper, where the news and, of course, the lottery results are kept, and we read these lottery results because somebody asked for them. If there's something you would like read to people who are blind or print disabled, you can email us at info@audiblelocalledger.org, or you can call us at 508-539-2030, and we'll consider reading it. And if you miss any of the information that we share in our readings, you can always go to audiblelocalledger.org and click on the Listen tab. We have a fully disability-compliant website, and you can catch up on anything that you might have missed in the past week. We also keep a large variety of periodicals and literature there in perpetuity, so you can always find something enjoyable to listen to. And don't forget, our grocery guides are there for what's on sale at the supermarket. All of that is free for people who are blind or print disabled at audiblelocalledger.org. Now, for the latest lottery results, we go to masslottery.com because the Cape Cod Times goes to press too early to give you those results, and if you ask for them, you certainly deserve those latest. With the numbers game results, we go to masslottery.com for Sunday, May 4th in the midday drawing. Those results were 7, 9, 4, 6. Again, yesterday's midday drawing results in the numbers game. 7, 9, 4, 6. In the evening drawing, last night's numbers game results, 4, 1, 9, 9. Again, last night's evening drawing for the numbers game, 4, 1, 9, 9. Mass cash for Sunday, May 4th, 1, 12, 20, 26, and 30. And Lucky for Life rounds out our results for Sunday, May 4th with 12, 26, 31, 35, and 43, with 14, the bonus number. Good luck to all who play, and remember us if you win. From the cover of today's Cape Cod Times, above the fold, if there was such a thing in a digital newspaper, Lashed by the Sand. Thoreau manuscript about Eastham surfaces by Heather McCarran. Before tourists and traffic, and long before clam shacks and ice cream parlors, 19th century essayist, naturalist, and thinker Henry David Thoreau walked Cape Cod's outer shoreline, marveling at the shipwrecks, the lighthouses, dunes, and the salt-weathered locals who made a life there. Now, more than 150 years later, a rare manuscript in Thoreau's own hand describing a visit to Eastham was sold for $12,183 at auction. Nate D. Sanders Auctions, which is based in Los Angeles, completed the sale on April 24th to an anonymous Massachusetts buyer who was one of 4 bidders. Starting bid was $5,000. The document, yellowed with age, is included with a 10-volume set of the 1906 manuscript edition of the writings of Henry David Thoreau, which was published by Houghton Mifflin. Only 600 numbered sets were produced. each featuring a 2-page original manuscript bound into the first volume. The recently auctioned set with Thoreau's observations about Eastham is number 326. The manuscript offers a rare window into Thoreau's creative process. It's filled with pencil edits, revisions, and additions, hallmarks of his precise and contemplative writing method, the auction house notes in an April 28th press release. What did Thoreau say about Eastham? Written in the early 1850s, the manuscript includes observations that later appeared in Thoreau's Cape Cod, which was published in 1865, 2 years after his death. The auction took place just days shy of the 163rd anniversary of Thoreau's death on May 6, 1862. In the manuscript, it's 10 1/4 inches by 8 1/2, unfolded, Thoreau describes the Eastham landscape, noting it was starkly different from the familiar terrain of his inland home in Concord. All sands are here called beaches, whether they are waves of water or of air that dash against them, since they commonly have their origin on the shore, the manuscript reads. The sand in some places, says the historian of Eastham, lodging against the beach grass, has been raised into hills 50 feet high, where 25 years ago no hills existed. Rocks which were formerly covered with soil are disclosed, and being lashed by the sand, driven against them by the wind, look as if they were recently dug from a quarry. Thoreau, great crops of corn in Eastham. Thoreau also expressed surprise to hear of the great crops of corn which are still raised in Eastham, notwithstanding the real and apparent barrenness. Born in 1817, Thoreau is best known for his books Walden and Civil Disobedience. Through his writings, a blend of self-reflection and insightful observations of nature and society, he encouraged people to connect with the natural world, to question societal norms, and live more consciously. In October of 1849, June of 1850, and July of 1855, he walked along much of the outermost Cape, from Orleans to Provincetown. His book, Cape Cod, contains reflections from his treks, observing the land, the sea, the people, and the unique challenges of life on the Cape. Heather McCarron writes about climate change, environment, energy, science, and the natural world, in addition to news and features in Barnstable and Brewster. You can reach her at HMCCARRON at CapeCodOnline.com. Sad headline in today's Cape Cod Times: motorcycle crash kills 28-year-old business owner. Written by Heather McCarron of the Cape Cod Times. A motorcycle crash at the intersection of Station Avenue and Wood Road in South Yarmouth on Thursday, May 1st, claimed the life of a 28-year-old South Yarmouth man, according to police. Kian Laxo was riding south on Station Avenue just after 4 p.m. when he collided with a pickup truck crossing the intersection. According to the Yarmouth Police Department, the impact occurred at a high rate of speed, sent the motorcycle into a granite mailbox post. Emergency crews arrived to find Laxo with life-threatening injuries. Yarmouth firefighters attempted life-saving measures, but Laxo was pronounced dead at the scene. The driver of the pickup remained on site and is cooperating with the investigation, police said. Police initially received reports of a single vehicle crash involving a mailbox, but responding officers quickly determined that the collision involved a second vehicle. Laxo was the owner of Laxo Landscaping in South Yarmouth. The intersection of Station Ave and Wood Road ranks 39th among Cape Cod's top 50 high crash locations, according to the Cape Cod Commission's 2025 Barnstable County High Crash Locations Report. Yarmouth Police Public Information Officer Nicholas Jamarco said in a May 2nd email, 28 crashes have occurred at the intersection since 2020, including 10 since January 1st of 2024. Although road construction is underway nearby with detours and closures posted, the intersection itself remains open and operational. Zooming out from the Wood Road intersection, county data from 2018 to 2020 show 162 crashes occurred along the full 1-mile stretch of Station Avenue, including intersections with Route 6, White's Path, Old Townhouse Road, Long Pond Drive, and Regional Avenue. In 2023, town and county officials launched a Station Avenue corridor study to assess safety and propose both short and long-term improvements. The county conducted a 12-hour traffic count and found no need for a full traffic signal or upgrades to the existing flashing light at Wood Road, though officials have considered adding an all-way stop and a crosswalk. Firefighting water bombs and rain help extinguish a Cape Base brush fire, by Rachel Devaney of the Cape Cod Times. With special equipment, aerial support, and some timely rain, an army of firefighters fought a raging brush fire for hours at Joint Base Cape Cod before it was brought under control late Thursday night, according to Mashpee Fire Chief Joseph Peltier. "I don't want to tell you that it's completely out," Peltier said Friday morning, "but the state is working hotspots all around that area, and I know the rain probably helped." The fire, according to the National Guard Public Affairs Office, moved outside of a designated controlled burn area, but was still within the confines of the base. Roughly 150 acres were burned, said the National Guard. The controlled burn was scheduled to include 133 acres. The additional acreage that burned was scheduled to be part of a future controlled burn, the agency said. Most, if not all, Cape Cod fire departments answered the call at the base. Cape first responders were also joined by a state task force and the Plymouth County task force, he said. In its email on Friday afternoon, the National Guard Public Affairs Office said all the fires had been put out. No injuries or structural damage was reported, the agency said. Mashpee Fire received a call for a brush fire at the base at 1:31 p.m. on Thursday. As of 5 p.m., the department had sent a brush breaker truck designed for off-road fires, and a utility vehicle, a tanker, and the fire chief, according to Fire Captain Nicole Stanley. The brush fire grew into a 3-alarm fire, Stanley said. National Guard Black Hawk pilots and state police also used water bombs to fight the blaze as they hovered over the fire from helicopters throughout the afternoon and evening, said Peltier. "I was in the woods for about 5 hours. It was a lot of hard work," said Peltier. "They're probably out there cleaning up right now and getting themselves together." The base is on the western side of Cape Cod and home to 5 military commands. Prescribed burns were planned for April 30th and May 1st at Camp Edwards on the base, if weather permitted, according to a press release. The burn is part of the Massachusetts National Guard's Natural Resources Program, intended to reduce wildland hazard reduction, manage ecological pine barrens, and train wildland firefighters. The base's Environmental and Readiness Center contact Emily Kelly did not immediately return a call and email on Thursday seeking comment. Another prescribed burn was planned for Wednesday, April 30th at Cape Cod Space Force Station, also at the base if conditions permitted, according to a second press release. The burn was to be conducted by the U.S. Air Force and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The burns are intended to reduce wildland fuel hazard and allow for pine barrens ecological management, according to Olivia Hooper, an environmental coordinator for the Space Force Station. Hooper did not immediately return a call or email on Thursday seeking comment. So what happens next? There'll be an action plan involving local and state fire departments, said Peltier. It was a lot. There were a lot of trucks and a lot of men. There was a lot of fire out there, he said. Rachel Devaney writes about community and culture. She can be reached at rdevaney@capecodonline.com. And our final story on the front page of today's Cape Cod Times, dated Cinco de Mayo, that is May 5th of 2025. Will this move by lawmakers save Pocasset Mental Health Center? By Allison Kuznets of the State House News Service. The House this week approved some financial support to a 16-bed psychiatric hospital on Cape Cod that Governor Maura Healey previously proposed shuttering through a budget mega amendment. The House allocated $50,000 to improve the mental health rooms at Pocasset Mental Health Center. The amendment passed on a 134-21 vote Tuesday afternoon. The language emerged after talks over two amendments filed by Republican Representative David Vieira of Falmouth that sought to further protect Pocasset, also known as the Cape Cod and Islands Community Mental Health Center. One Vieira amendment, number 1098, aimed to steer $200,000 to Pocasset to retrofit and furnish 8 additional mental health rooms, while the other, number 1096, sought to ensure Pocasset maintained at least 16 inpatient beds and order a review of the campus and services to determine potential future investments. The Pocasset measure was not discussed prior to the vote on the mega amendment. Ways and Means spokesperson Blake Weber said the $50,000 allocation was the amount the committee felt was appropriate. Healy had proposed closing the state-run facility, which her administration said was underutilized as part of a string of controversial proposed healthcare budget cuts. She later paused plans to close Pocasset and Pappas Rehabilitation Hospital for Children in Canton. The mega amendment also incorporated a Representative Bill Galvin proposal for a legislative commission to evaluate the future of Pappas while keeping it open. The amendment states that services to patients shall not be reduced or eliminated, and that Pappas won't be closed or consolidated with any other facility until the commission submits a report on December 31st of 2026. The Senate will soon be debating its fiscal 2026 budget. SEIU Local 509, which represents state mental health care workers, might ask Senator Dylan Fernandez of Falmouth to file an amendment similar to Vieira's to protect Pocasset, depending on the Senate's initial budget proposal, a union representative told the news service. And now we'll move inside today's Cape Cod Times paper. Sandwich's May 8th election features 3 candidates for school committee by Rachel Devaney. One school committee seat is up for grabs during the 2025 Sandwich Town elections, which will be held May 8th. 3 candidates will run for the 3-year seat, including Alexandra Higgins and Megan Tamaro, and incumbent Danielle Binyenda. The town of Sandwich, according to 2024 statistics, has roughly 17,581 registered voters and 6 precincts, according to the Secretary of the Commonwealth's office. Election polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. The Times asked those running for biographical information and answers to 4 questions. These candidates are listed alphabetically by last name. First candidate, Danielle Binyenda, age 49, town of residence East Sandwich, and the length of residence there, 20 years. Work and employment as a dental hygienist. Her education, earned an associate's degree in science. Civic experience, current school committee member, chair of the Superintendent Evaluation Subcommittee. Formerly served on Special Education Parent Advisory Council, the Parent Teachers Association, the Parent Teacher Student Association, and the Commission on Disability. The question: what are the key strengths and weaknesses of Sandwich? One of Sandwich's key strengths is the district's academic rigor, says Binyenda. There's a vast number of advanced placement offerings and a high number of students passing these exams, she said. The implementation of the new Career Pathways program at Sandwich High School offers courses and internships within the fields of computer science, biomedical science, and business. These programs equip students for their future careers, she said. Another strength is REACH, a responsive education program offered at Forestdale School, she said. Book Buddies is another great program at Oak Ridge where older students mentor younger students. And Readers. This program allows students to practice their skills and make connections, said Binyenda. A weakness within the district is the facilities, she said. Deferred maintenance has gone on for too long. Superintendent Joseph Maruchik has been a valuable asset in identifying the needs and prioritizing projects that are of the utmost importance, she said. The next question, if elected, what are the top 3 issues you want to address? If she's re-elected, Binyenda said she hopes to address student retention, oversight, and improvement of district facilities and school safety. The next question, if elected, how do you plan to address those issues? An important goal for Binyenda is to showcase all that Sandwich has to offer. It's also important to provide a positive experience for students and families in order to retain and attract new students, keeping enrollment numbers steady, she said. Binyenda will also continue to encourage innovative course offerings, such as the Career Pathways program that's been implemented over the past year, she said. There are opportunities for students to take courses and participate in internships in areas such as computer science, biomedical science, and business, she said. Having desirable facilities and grounds is a representation of the positive culture that we're striving for in the Sandwich schools. In terms of aging school buildings, said Binyenda, it's necessary to address further capital needs in a more comprehensive manner. The high school, she said, needs updated science labs and athletic facilities. The high school is 49 years old, and the 2 elementary schools are 36 years old, said Binyenda. Due to deferred maintenance for many years, we're faced with prioritizing projects within the district that are necessary and within the means of our budget. School safety is also important, said Binyenda, and has been a top priority for her since she first ran for school committee in 2022. Our district safety team has grown in the past few years and consists of public safety, school, and town officials, she said. The safety team, she said, has been proactive in performing full-scale exercises, professional development, and reunification drills throughout the district. There was also a district safety threat assessment performed several years ago that identified security vulnerabilities within the district and suggested measures to take, said Binyenda. If re-elected, she will continue to support recommendations from the safety team. And the final question, what skills, interests, or experience makes you the best candidate? Binyenda brings a unique perspective to the school committee because she has 2 children in the district, she said. One of her children receives special education services, and her other child participates in the general education classroom. She understands the challenges that families often face when having a child with learning differences. There's been a lot of positive progress in the district during my time on the school committee, but I realize there's still important work to be done, said Binyenda. It is vital to have someone with institutional knowledge on the committee, one that is flexible and can handle tough decision-making. The next candidate, Alexandra Higgins. Her age is 34. The town of residence is East Sandwich. Length of residence there is 5 years. Work and employment, a stay-at-home mom. And her civic experience is the Sandwich Mothers Club. What are the key strengths and weaknesses of Sandwich is the first question. For Higgins, Sandwich's greatest strengths is the district's administrators. School officials, she said, genuinely care about students. Higgins is also grateful for the local community. This town is one of the best places. I feel lucky to raise my family here, said Higgins, who is working toward earning a psychology degree. Each summer we see so many people come here, but even when fall comes and it's just the locals, there is still such a strong sense of community. However, Higgins said transparency and communication between school administration and families could improve. Additional access to resources to help parents and students navigate certain issues, whether it be bullying or just support with academics, could also be better, said Higgins. The next question, if elected, what are the top 3 issues you want to address? Higgins will focus on issues surrounding inclusion and access, she said. Whether it's access to testing or screening if a student is showing signs of struggling in a certain area academically, kids from all backgrounds and with all different ways of thinking and processing information should feel welcome and encouraged in our schools, she said. If elected, Higgins said she'll also make transparency a priority by equipping families with information surrounding town policies. With families better educated about how the town works, they can be more involved with critical issues like bullying, the curriculum, or facilities, she said. Higgins will also work hard to support teachers, she said. It's critical that school staff feel supported and have access to safe, well-maintained facilities and classroom resources, she said. I love supporting our classrooms any way I can, and as part of the school committee, I want to ensure that teachers have what they need for lessons without a personal financial burden, she said. The question, if elected, how do you plan to address those issues? Higgins will work closely with other school committee members and the community to tackle any issues that arise, she said. The next question, what skills, interests, or experience make you the best candidate? As a mother of 3 neurodivergent children who all have individualized education programs, or IEPs, Higgins said she knows that children learn differently. I have ADHD, and I know that school was very difficult for me, she said. Because Higgins is trying to earn a degree in psychology, she said she's spent many hours researching child development to help best support her 3 boys. I want to work closely with the board to help all children have the best learning experience they possibly can while they're in our schools, she said. I'm passionate about supporting students, parents, as well as the teachers, so that these kids have what they need to succeed in their individual ways. And the final candidate, Megan Tamaro, T-A-M-M-A-R-O, did not answer calls or emails from the Times for comment. So she made no answers to those queries. From the Cape and Islands section, Steve Heslip is the Cape Cod Times photographer, and we read his column because it's not about the picture that might be published in there. It's about how he got the shot, and it's usually a pretty interesting kind of life hack. So we still read it, even though, of course, we know we are reading for people who are blind or print disabled. So the photography itself is not seen, but his description is heard. Photography's Next Generation is Learning Fast by Steve Heslip. April's the beginning of birthday season in our household, and I'm happy to share the stage now with our grandson. 365 days sound like an eternity after the candles are blown out atop my traditional Boston cream pie each year. But as the years stack up, the days fly by faster and faster, especially now. It is said a photograph is the art of holding time still. Keeping that in mind, my long-term photo project started early last April when our grandson arrived on a Saturday. There were no rules, no deadlines, but always a camera in hand whenever we shared time together. Early on, we spent a lot of our time doing walking tours. I had read babies liked the stimulation of being held, walking about with a running commentary of what they were seeing. So we would wander from room to room as he got an in-depth description of each place, including the photos on the walls. As a baby in the 21st century, he has his own shared online photo album. Family and friends have contributed to it, now with over 800 photos just in his first year. When he started crawling, my old Nikon was a faded yellow strap became an object of great interest sitting on the floor. He'd stare in the lens intently, ready with a smile when hearing the shutter click. Then one day in late March, he took his first photo. Thanks to technology, it was a tack sharp, perfectly exposed image of my foot, which glowed on the viewing screen. Since capturing his first decisive moment, we routinely have photo sessions as he revels in the whirl of the motor drive. It's been an exciting year for us all, watching him go from newborn to little tyke, expanding his world faster than his legs can take him as his grandfather tries to keep up. One of these Aprils, not too long from now, he'll be taking the birthday photos. Also from the Cape and Islands section, scientists spot over 75 endangered whales south of Martha's Vineyard, by Heather McCarran, and there's a photo of several whales breaching the water. More than 75 critically endangered North Atlantic right whales have gathered in one of the busiest shipping corridors off the Massachusetts coast, some feeding just below the surface, putting the animals in direct peril and prompting an urgent call for vessels to slow down to reduce the risk of deadly ship strikes. Scientists from the New England Aquarium's Anderson Cabot Center for Ocean Life spotted the whales during 2 aerial surveys on April 23rd and the 28th, about 55 miles south of Martha's Vineyard. The aggregation was observed in active shipping lanes, increasing the risk of ship strikes, one of the leading causes of injury and death for the species, along with entanglements in fishing gear. In response, NOAA Fisheries designed and designated a voluntary slow speed zone in the area, urging mariners to slow to 10 knots or less, according to a May 1st advisory from the aquarium. A similar required speed restriction remains in place in the seasonal management area of Cape Cod Bay through May 15th. Researchers say large groups of feeding right whales, along with sei whales, have been appearing more frequently in the area during spring migrations. The recent gathering is one of the largest they've seen. During the recent flights, the team alerted several large commercial ships about the whales' presence, since right whales feed near the surface, and they're very difficult to spot, especially in areas with heavy maritime traffic. While the location of the whales in the shipping lanes was concerning in this particular instance, our survey team was able to successfully alert a ship in real time, have them shift course to avoid the right whales that were gathered together and feeding, said aerial survey team leader and associate research scientist Orla O'Brien. Most of the whales that were observed were adults. On the first flight, the team counted more than 60 whales, with another 15 joining by the second survey. Researchers see Calvin, a whale missing for 3 years that was presumed dead. Researchers said they were especially happy to spot a well-known female named Calvin, appearing in the North Atlantic right whale catalog as number 2223 with the group. This was the first time Calvin had been seen in almost 3 years, and at her last sighting, she had severe entanglement wounds that were new. A lot of people had given up hope that she was still alive after not being seen for so long, said Catherine McKenna, an associate research scientist. Spring is peak season for right whale activity in New England waters, particularly in Cape Cod Bay, where researchers from the aquarium and the Center for Coastal Studies in Provincetown continue to document large feeding groups. As of May 1st, the aquarium had identified more than 168 individual right whales over 32 flights since December, nearly half the estimated remaining population of 370. In April, the Center for Coastal Studies reported having identified as many as 180 of the whales. About a third of the whales seen south of the Vineyard were also spotted in January near Jeffrey's Ledge, off the coast of Maine and New Hampshire, highlighting how whales are shifting their habitat in response to changing ocean conditions. Scientists stress the need for continued collaboration among researchers, industry, and government to protect them. With right whale activity peaking, scientists urge mariners to monitor NOAA fisheries alerts and slow down in both voluntary and seasonal speed-restricted zones. And with our weekly update from the Cape and Islands section of unemployment claims in the state, initial filings for unemployment benefits in Massachusetts rose in the most recent data compared with the week prior, U.S. Department of Labor said on May 1st. New jobless claims, which is considered a proxy for layoffs, increased to 8,129 in the week ending April 26th. That's almost double, up from 4,878 the week before, the Labor Department said. U.S. unemployment claims rose to 241,000 last week. That's up 18,000 claims from the 223,000 the week prior on a seasonally adjusted basis. Puerto Rico saw the largest percentage increase in weekly claims, with claims jumping by 213.5%. Rhode Island, meanwhile, saw the largest percentage drop in new claims, with claims dropping by 67.5%. We're a few minutes past the halfway point in our reading. Regular listeners would be aware that at this stage we'd normally move to a different kind of local news, the obituaries, death notices, etc. that are listed in that day's daily newspaper of the Cape Cod Times. There are none in today's newspaper. I'm guessing they were all in the Sunday Cape Cod Times. The next headline, Firefighters Battle Fire at Captain Scott's in Sandwich by Zane Razak. A fire at Captain Scott's seafood restaurant at 71 Tupper Road in Sandwich early Sunday morning, May 4th, resulted in 4 alarms, according to the fire chief. Chief John Burke said a call to report white smoke coming from the back of the building came in at 5:27 a.m., and firefighters began arriving to the scene 2 minutes later. They found fire in the back of the building and the basement. A working fire assignment was requested to bring in resources from Bourne Fire Department. The building was empty at the time of the fire. Burke said the cause is not believed to be suspicious. Crews backed out of the building when they noticed the floor on the first floor became unsteady, according to a press release. A second alarm fire assignment was then requested to bring in more help from Joint Base Fire Department, Plymouth Fire, Cotuit Fire, Barnstable, and West Barnstable Fire. While extinguishing from outside, Sandwich firefighters noticed the natural gas regulator for the building had burned off, causing a subsequent gas leak inside. Burke noted that National Grid then had to come to shut the gas off underground. A third alarm was requested to bring in units from Centerville, Osterville, Marston's Mills Fire and Onset Fire District, followed by a fourth alarm around 11:30 a.m. to bring in resources from Centerville, Osterville, Marston's Mills Fire again, and Hyannis Fire Department. The fire was extinguished with the help of an excavator to pull apart the building provided by Pastori Excavation. The fire was declared out at 12:30 p.m. Providence Canteen provided drinks and coffee to firefighters. The State Fire Marshal's Special Operations Rehab truck was also on hand to support firefighter rehab. One firefighter was treated and released on scene for heat exhaustion. Burke estimated that damages could be $1 million or more. The State Fire Marshal will investigate the cause with Sandwich fire investigators, according to the chief. According to the website, Captain Scott's has been at its Tupper Road location for over 50 years. In 1989, the Gocios family took over the fried seafood restaurant and immediately began the transformation into a restaurant that only uses the freshest seafood available, reads the site. The property is owned by V&G Realty Trust, according to Sandwich Assessor's records. Zane Razak writes about housing and real estate, and you can reach her at ZRAZZAQ at CapeCodOnline.com. And yes, it's begun. First steps for a new Sagamore Bridge. Soil samples. And there are a couple of pictures of people taking soil samples. There's a view looking north of a neighborhood that's just west of the Sagamore Bridge off Eleanor Ave, where some homes will be taken by eminent domain by the state to make way for the new bridges that will replace the Sagamore. Another picture of the Sagamore. Teams from Geologic, based in Norfolk, have crews on both sides of the Cape Cod Canal taking soil samples as prep work continues to replace the aging Sagamore Bridge. Yes, the money is there, folks, and the bridges, well, the first bridge, the Sagamore Bridge, will be replaced. The estimated date of completion, yes, this is true, I am not making this up, is 2038. So 13 years from now, we'll probably have a new bridge. Maybe. That is how we get things done around here. It's a big job. Big job. But we do have the money. It will get done. Obama's vacation spot in Chilmark will be listed for sale, agent says. This is reported by Desiree McFarjum of the Cape Cod Times. Blue Heron Farm The Martha's Vineyard estate, where former President Barack Obama and his family vacationed, is set to be listed for sale, according to Brian Doherty of Corcoran on Wednesday, April 30th. Doherty will be co-agent on the listing of Blue Heron Farm on Cobbs Hill Road with Maggie Gold Seelig from MSG Group Real Estate, he said. As of 3:30 p.m. Thursday, May 1st, the listing was not available publicly. 5 properties combined to make the 30-acre farm, according to the town of Chilmark's assessor's database. The total property value is assessed at approximately $36 million. In 2005, Blue Heron Farm Properties LLC sold the property to Blue Sky MV Ltd. for $19,940,000. In 2011, the farm sold to Blue Heron LLC for $21,925,000, according to the assessor's database. Alex Salomon and Hume Steyer are listed as managers for the LLC, according to state records. In July of 2009, the Vineyard Gazette reported that then-President Obama would vacation at the farm in August. The Obamas arrived on Cape Cod August 24th, disembarking from Air Force One at Joint Base Cape Cod before boarding a Marine One helicopter for a flight to Martha's Vineyard. More than 50 people gathered in front of the Chilmark General Store, which is half a mile from Blue Heron Farm, awaiting the president's arrival. During his trip, Obama golfed and biked around the vineyard, and occasionally took his daughters Sasha and Malia to the general store for a snack. In 2014, the Obamas returned to the vineyard to stay at 72 Gosnald's Way in Chilmark. And we will keep it local before we move to the national news with some sports. High school roundup. Sandwich Baseball wins their 3rd straight game. These are reported by Alan Gunn of the Cape Cod Times. 7 Cape and Islands teams across a trio of sports were in action on a warm and sunny Saturday. Mashpee and Nantucket Baseball and Nauset and St. John Paul II Girls Lacrosse were the only 2 Cape and Islands matchups, while 3 boys lacrosse teams, Falmouth, Nantucket, and Nauset, tested themselves against off-Cape opponents in non-league games. Falmouth Girls Lacrosse traveled to Bridgewater-Raynham, where they picked up a resume-building win over the 25th-ranked team in Division I. In high school sports action for girls lacrosse, it was Nauset 15, St. John Paul II 14. The Lions, 8-3, had their 5-game win streak come to an end. Julia Kipperman, who scored the winning goal with 3:01 left to play, tallied 10 goals and 3 assists to help the Warriors, who are 6-4, complete a 5-goal comeback. It was Falmouth 12, Bridgewater-Raynham 9. The Clippers, who were 5-6, put an end to a 4-game losing streak in their first victory since April 17th over a very good team. In boys lacrosse, it was Falmouth 11, Whitman-Hanson 4. The Clippers, who are 8-3, stayed the course with their 3rd win in a row. Nauset 14, Bridgewater-Raynham 5. The Warriors, who are 7-4, have won back-to-back games, 4 out of their last 5, as they gain consistency. It was Cohasset 17, Nantucket 3. The Whalers, who were 6-3, dropped back-to-back games to my hometown team for the first time this season. Cohasset 17, Nantucket 3. Yes, I repeated it because I'm from Cohasset. Baseball, it was Sandwich 9, Nauset 2. Matthew Taylor, dominant on the mound, allowed no earned runs and struck out 10 for Sandwich. The Warriors, who were 1-11, fell to a 10th straight defeat. And finally, it was Mashpee 15, Nantucket 5. The Falcons, 4-6, ended a 2-game slide and grabbed just their 2nd win in the last 5 games in a non-league matchup with the Whalers, who are 4-7 and have lost back-to-back outings. And we've completed the local news in today's Cape Cod Times, dated Cinco de Mayo, May 5th of 2025. We'll move on to the national and international front in the Cape Cod Times. Hamas executes looters in Gaza. Yemen's Houthi rebels fire a missile that strikes near an Israeli airport, by Nidal al-Maghrabi and Mustafa Abu Ghanea. In Cairo, Hamas has executed a number of alleged looters after several incidents in which heavily armed gangs attacked food stores and community kitchens in the Gaza Strip last week, sources close to the Palestinian militant group said. Hamas officials have accused some of the looters of working in collaboration with Israel, which has sealed off aid from entering Gaza for the past 2 months. Israel has not commented on the allegation. In one incident, the Hamas-run Interior Ministry said a police officer was killed. Others were wounded when an Israeli drone fired a missile at a police unit chasing criminals in Gaza City. "We will strike with an iron fist all these renegades, and we will take the necessary measures to deter them, no matter the cost, and we will not allow them to continue terrorizing citizens, threatening their lives, and stealing their property," the ministry said in a statement on May 3rd, referring to the alleged looters. Ismail al-Thawabta, director of Gaza's Hamas-run government media office, said some of the looters acted under a clan umbrella and others acted as organized groups, some of which, he said, received direct support from Israel. He said a number of revolutionary execution rulings had been carried out against several top criminals proven to have been involved in looting. Some Gaza residents and Palestinian media said Hamas's armed wing imposed curfews starting at 9 p.m. local time to restrict the movement of civilians and to chase criminals. United Nations officials have warned of the increasingly dire humanitarian situation that's facing Gaza, which has been devastated by the Israeli campaign launched following the Hamas-led attack on Israel on October 7th of 2023. Israel has defended its blockade against aid entering Gaza, alleging that Hamas steals supplies intended for the civilian population and then distributes them to its own forces, which is an allegation Hamas denies. However, the problem is worsened as the blockade has persisted, posing a challenge to Hamas, which has faced irregular protests by people in Gaza angered by the shortage of food reaching the enclave. The incidents underlined the strain facing the Gaza population, which has been increasingly squeezed into areas in central Gaza and along the coast as Israeli forces have created wide buffer zones around the enclave. Those gangs, some of them armed, have terrorized people, not only stealing food, but stopping some people on the roads and taking away their money and phones, said Ahmed from Gaza City, who asked his full name not be used. "They aid the occupation in starving us. They must be dealt with as collaborators," he told Reuters via a chat app. Safa news agency, which is close to Hamas, said the Interior Ministry has formed a new 5,000-member force, which is tasked with confronting looters and armed gangs. However, local police forces have been hampered by attacks from Israeli drones against any armed Palestinians they identify. Hamas deployed thousands of police and security forces across Gaza after a ceasefire took effect in January. But its armed presence shrank sharply since Israel resumed large-scale attacks in March. Meanwhile, Israeli military strikes killed at least 40 people across the enclave, the territory's health ministry said. A missile fired by Yemen's Houthi rebels toward Israel on May 4th landed near Ben Gurion Airport, the country's main international airport, sending a plume of smoke into the air, causing panic among passengers in the terminal building. Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthis, who claimed responsibility for the missile strike, have recently intensified missile launches at Israel, saying they're acting in solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to retaliate. "We attacked in the past, we will attack in the future," he said in a video that was circulated by his office. A senior Israeli police commander, Yair Hetzroni, showed reporters a crater caused by the impact of the missile, which airport authorities said landed beside a road near a Terminal 3 parking lot. The airport lies near the major city of Tel Aviv. "You can see the scene right behind us here. A hole that opened up with a diameter of tens of meters and also tens of meters deep," Hetzroni said, adding that there was no significant damage. Israel's Channel 12 News said Netanyahu would meet security ministers and defense officials on May 4th to discuss a response. Most attacks from Yemen have been intercepted by Israel's missile defense systems, apart from a drone strike that hit Tel Aviv in 2024. The May 4th missile was the only one of a series launched recently that wasn't intercepted. The Israel Defense Force were investigating. Today, May 4th, at approximately 9:18 a.m., the IDF identified the launch of a missile from Yemen toward Israel territory. According to protocol, sirens were sounded in a number of areas in Israel, the military said. Several attempts were made to intercept the missile. A hit was identified in the area of Ben Gurion Airport. A Reuters reporter at the airport heard sirens and saw passengers running toward safe rooms. Several people posted videos filmed on smartphones that showed a plume of black smoke clearly visible behind parked aircraft and airport buildings, and pictures showed a nearby road scattered with dust and debris. The Israeli ambulance service said 8 people were taken to a hospital for mild to moderate injuries. Claiming responsibility, Houthi military spokesperson Yahya Saree said Israel's main airport was no longer safe for air travel. The Israel Airports Authority said normal operations had resumed after reports of air traffic being halted and access routes to the airport being blocked. However, several airlines, including Lufthansa, Delta, ITA Airways, and Air France, said they had canceled flights to and from Tel Aviv, some of which had been rescheduled for May 5th and 6th. Our next headline, Trump unsure on upholding Constitution. President also says, I don't know, when also asked about due process, by Joey Garrison in Washington. President Donald Trump said he doesn't know whether he's required to uphold the Constitution as president in a new interview as he defended his administration's actions to remove people who were in the country illegally. Trump also said he's not looking to run for a third White House term during a wide-ranging interview with Kristen Welker on NBC's Meet the Press, which was taped in Florida on May 2nd, and it was aired May 4th. Trump's comments follow the Supreme Court in April saying the Trump administration must, quote-unquote, facilitate the release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Maryland sheet metal worker and father of 3 who was wrongfully deported to an El Salvador prison without receiving a trial. I don't know, Trump said when asked by Welker whether he needs to uphold the Constitution. I have to respond by saying, again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they're going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. The Trump administration has said it doesn't need to even request Abrego Garcia's release from El Salvador, where he's from originally, because of how the court worded its decision. However, critics have argued such statements show the administration is refusing to obey the nation's highest court. What you said is not what I heard the Supreme Court said, Trump told Welker. They have a different interpretation. Trump officials have accused Abrego Garcia of being a member of the MS-13 gang and said if he were returned to the U.S., he'd be deported back to El Salvador because of his illegal status. Abrego Garcia has denied that he was a member of MS-13 or any other gang. Pressed whether his administration is following the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution, which says that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, Trump said he wasn't sure. I don't know. It seems. It might say that. But if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials, he said. We have thousands of people that are some murderers and some drug dealers and some of the worst people on earth. Trump has pushed the boundaries of presidential power during the first 3+ months of his second term, bypassing Congress to set policy and arguing that the president, not U.S. district judges, have the final say on national security matters. Trump has previously said he could secure the return of Abrego Garcia, but pushed back to Welker on the notion that he's defying the Supreme Court. He said he's relying on the legal counsel of his Attorney General, Pam Bondi. I have the power to ask for him to come back if I'm instructed by the Attorney General that it's legal to do so, Trump said. But the decision as to whether or not he should come back will be the head of El Salvador. He's a very capable man. During an April visit with Trump at the White House, Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele said he had no plans to release Abrego Garcia and return him to the United States. After repeatedly floating the idea of running for president again, Trump also said on May 4th he's not looking at a third term and acknowledged he's not allowed to do so. "I'm not looking at that," Trump said, even as the Trump Organization recently started selling Trump 2028 hats on Trump's online store. "I will say this, so many people want me to do it. I've never had requests so strong as that," Trump said, "but it's something that, to the best of my knowledge, you're not allowed to do. I don't know if that's constitutional that they're not allowing you to do it or anything else." Serving a third presidential term is explicitly barred by the 22nd Amendment, which states no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. Also, during NBC's Meet the Press episode, Trump said he will not remove Jerome Powell as Federal Reserve Board chairman before Powell's term ends in May of 2026, and the president repeated calls for Powell to lower interest rates. Well, he should lower them, and at some point he will. He'd rather not because he's not a fan of mine. He just doesn't like me because I think he's a total stiff, Trump said. During the interview, Trump declined to rule out making some of his recent tariffs permanent. "No, I wouldn't do that because if somebody thought they were going to come off the table, why would they build in the United States?" he said. Trump acknowledged he had been very tough with China, essentially cutting off trade between the world's two large economies, but said Beijing now wanted to reach an agreement. Congressional Republicans are weighing steep cuts to Medicaid in their efforts to piece together a landmark tax cut bill they hope to enact by July 4th. Trump shows an openness to work requirements for Medicaid. Jason Smith, chair of the House of Representative Ways and Means Committee, said on Fox News Sunday, May 4th. Medicaid provides health care coverage to 83 million low-income people, and it's jointly funded by the federal government and the states. One option with broad Republican support is implementing a minimum work requirement for adult recipients. The president has been very clear he doesn't want to cut benefits for individuals on Medicaid and Medicare. He wants to create efficiencies and reforms. He shows an openness to work requirements, Smith said. Other federal welfare programs like the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP, or what was known as food stamps, have work requirements for some recipients. Republicans have also floated expanded work requirements for SNAP to shrink agricultural spending in line with a House budget plan. Most adults on Medicaid work full or part-time. Most who don't are full-time caregivers or disabled, according to an analysis by the nonpartisan Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. A federal Medicaid work requirement could lead to as many as 5.2 million adults aged 19 to 55 losing eligibility, according to an analysis by the Urban Institute, a nonprofit research organization. An editorial note contributing to that was Reuters reporter Aisha Bagchi. And with that, we've come to the end of our reading of the Cinco de Mayo Cape Cod Times. That's May 5th of 2025. This is your reader, Eric, saying be well, be safe, look after each other, and remember our veterans, especially those we've lost recently. Bye for now.